Tonight, Railways Minister tears into the National Democratic Congress for questioning President Akufo Addo's vision to construct the Tema Mpakadan railway line following recent accident involving a freshly procured train from Poland while on a test run.
And for him to come out saying he doesn't understand why the railway line should go through Volta region is an insult to we the people of Volta region. I am telling you, with that line now entering Volta region, it's going to be shorter for people to move from home.
Plus, why the partisan political considerations that drove the decision to construct the railway line.
If it's a good winning mechanism, what's wrong with it? Everybody in every country runs on politics. I am a politician. I'm here to govern the people and work in accordance with their dictates. And so if I'm doing something and it's political, what is wrong about it? Yes, it's for politics. And the people are happy.
This is Top Story with Evans Mensah.
Tonight, Railways Minister has been tearing into the National Democratic Congress for questioning President Akufo Addo's vision to construct the Tema Mpakadan railway line following the recent accident involving a freshly procured train from Poland while on a test run. Now, John Peter Amewu is accusing the NDC of insulting the people from the Volta region. More on that shortly. But first, he took on the former president, John Dramani Mahama, for wading into the controversy that erupted following that accident.
I don't blame him. This is not his fault. Those guys who did this test run are experts. There are 16 engineers that were brought from Poland. This is 304, I was told, tests that they've conducted worldwide this year. And so, I don't know His Excellency John Mahama where he's coming from with this understanding that no inspection has been done. As I clearly explained to you, they put in the system for inspection. A rail track was put ahead. Earlier on in the morning, they went around the whole line to see that there was no obstacle. 30 minutes this time before the takeoff of this DMU, the rail track, the maintenance track, was put ahead. So what is he saying when he said inspection?
This is what he says. How can you conduct a test run on the new railway line without a track inspection? How long had the vehicle been on the track before the test run? If I were president, I'll be asking some serious questions.
I don't think he understood the question himself, his accent. Did he try to find out whether inspection was done as a former president? Did he make an effort before coming out with this? Sometimes some of us just refuse to talk because some of these statements being made by people at higher authority. If I'm a former president, I would never say this type of things. Did he try? He knows me well. He could just find out from me from the office. Oh, my minister, my boy. Then we'll tell him the truth. He has not established that fact. And as a president, have an intention of coming to lead Ghanaians. And you come out with this sort of statement. I don't know. Surprisingly, this type of, I don't know how to describe it. But His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, this is below the belt. I am sorry. I give you all the kind of respect, but I expect you to find out first. This is below the belt. A former president, you are not even an engineer. These are 16 qualified engineers brought down from Poland. The inspection and the test run is not conducted by Ghana government.
This wasn't done by your ministry?
No. I told you that the contract specifications specify the time of transfer of ownership. So the train is not our train. We have not taken delivery, 100% ownership of the train.
But the track is yours?
The track is ours. We own the track.
So that's the point he's making, that if you own the track, then the inspection of the track will be your responsibility?
Yes, of course. And that has been done. What does it mean by inspection of track? Tell me, how is the track going to be inspected? What is track inspection, John Mahama? The track inspection, what does it mean? It simply means that somebody or a maintenance vehicle goes along the track to see if there's any obstacle. That is how I understood it in our manual terms, because we don't have a radar system to be able to detect the track inspection through a radar system where you can be in a control room and see the whole line. We don't have that. So this manual track inspection that His Excellency is talking about was conducted. So I don't really know what...
When was it conducted?
The same day. You see, it is just a coincidence or an accident that I cannot explain. According to the gentleman, you know, he came by, dropped his block or whatever, and in an attempt to go back, he decided to go over. I don't know what motive it is. I don't know. He's the best person to judge himself, but I'm saying that...
Some have suggested sabotage. You believe that?
Well, I mean, I'm not in a position to justify that. But where I can state clearly that the motive of just parking along the rail, it's very uncultured. I mean, it cannot be accepted in any modern civilization. That is where my problem is.
You said motive. You're questioning the motive.
Yes, that is what I'm questioning.
As in, you're questioning whether this was done deliberately.
Yeah, the intention, whether it's deliberate, but the intention, what prompted him to do that? He was saying that because I cannot go back through the underpass, I've decided to go over this. That thinking alone in itself is wrong. It's completely wrong. As good citizens of this country, we shouldn't do that. Okay, and that is why people could read any ill motive into it.
But the second question that John Mama has, how long had the vehicle been on the track before the test run?
Well,
it's a valid question.
It's a valid question, and that is why all that I can answer that question is that according to my briefing and what I've gotten from the engineers, the rail track was about 30 minutes ahead of the DMU. Okay, so if you wanted to know how long, it would be extremely difficult because what it meant is that the rail track had passed before the vehicle crossed and parked there. Yeah. And if you hear the guy said he was running back to the track. So it was done within a short period because he was coming back when he heard that the accident had occurred. So it's within that maybe a minimum of 30 minutes.
But isn't 30 minutes too much time?
You know, the DMU moves at a speed of almost about 120, 150 kilometers per hour. I mean, but because of this test run, I understand they were going about 60. And so if that rail track is moving about 40, 60 kilometers, and this is doing about 90 kilometers, I don't think the time interval of 30 minutes is too long enough. You know, I think it's okay to accommodate any unforeseen contingencies that may occur during that period.
Well, he admits nonetheless that the railway project between Tema and Mpakadan will remain financially unviable for some time.
The Tema Mpakadan, the last kilometer of this project, has a terminal which runs down as a port. They're going to use it as a port.
Where?
Okay.
At Mpakadan?
At Mpakadan. We can show you the pictures, maybe if you have the pictures. Okay, so it is not anything different from what he is talking about.
So you're building a port, or the port is already there?
The port is going to be built there. So you cannot say, therefore, that the railway line is leading to anywhere.
Has Cabinet considered it already?
Yes, I think it came to Cabinet. Yes.
Are there any timelines you know?
No, I have no idea about a timeline.
But the locomotives also, do you have a timeline for delivery?
The locomotives, you know, because of the... you are aware the financial difficulties that we got involved in. I think that delay the approval from the Ministry of Finance, but it have gone very far.
So let me ask you about the financial viability then of this investment that we currently have. What makes it financially viable?
You know, train is a social service. All over the world, passenger services in trains are not good investment in terms of return on investment. It's always been subsidized by government. All the trains that you see running on passenger basis, it's very, very difficult to get quite a good return on your investment if you have to rely only on passengers. And that is why most of the stations or the lines comes along with the freight, which is the locomotives. That gives a drive, you know.
That's where you make the money.
That's why you make the money. So passenger services on train lines are not, it's not a profitable venture. But what it does is that it has a multiplier effect in terms of its impact on the economy. Workers are sent quicker to their point of destinations. they're able to move to work and do things quickly and return. So diminishing on the intensity of traffic density, the route in terms of the lifespan will be projected. So these are some of the things that you don't see physically.
Because if you look at it,
Yeah.
you have to maintain it.
You have to maintain,
Right, and you're not making enough money.
No.
How do you maintain it?
Yeah.
How do you run this sustainably?
And that is why all
It
over
to pay
the
for
world,
itself.
governments get involved in the operation of a passenger train in terms of services, by closing that viability gap. Because this one we're going to buy fuel,
Absolutely.
We're going to buy fuel, we're going to employ workers. And we have built at least about 8 stations on the line. We're going to put people there.
So guaranteed it will run at a loss.
Definitely, there's not going to be, it's not a profitable venture as I stated it, based on the studies that we've conducted. You're not going to make one city, for passengers.
We'll interrogate that shortly. But the Railways Minister also accuses the NDC of insulting the people of the Volta region in reaction to a position paper authored by the party's National Communications Officer, Sami Jemfi, captioned Tema Mpakadan Railway Project, a railway line to nowhere.
That time it was Tema Akosombo. So when I listen to people like the communicator of the...
Yes.
So when I listen to him saying that this was their baby, it's time that we stop misleading Ghanaians.
But isn't this their baby?
It cannot be their baby. I'm telling you that His Excellency John Ajekun Kufuor brought this framework. And the feasibility studies was done. You cannot rule out the NDC that they do not do anything on that line. Of course, they play their role. Government is an ongoing, concern. Okay? So after His Excellency John Ajekun Kufuor did this feasibility studies about this line, in 2008, when the feasibility studies was completed, the NDC came in. You cannot go and constitute a contract procurement process without any feasibility studies. Which feasibility study did they do? Did they conduct the NDC? So they went and took what President Kufuor did and built upon it. So yes, it's true, they came in based on President Kufuor's feasibility studies, formulate their policies, make the necessary procurement. Okay? But then the procurement the NDC did was to construct a rail line from Tema to Akosombo. When His Excellency Nana Akufo Addo came into power, he looked at it and he said, I am going to put more attention on railway. Then he came and put it in the Ministry of Railway Development. They look at the NDC's contract and their procurement processes and said, well, this cannot go to Akosombo because of the dam. The engineers, therefore, made, other pronouncement that if the line is constructed through Akosombo, the integrity of the dam, it's likely to be compromised. Then the minister...
engineers told you that in 2017?
Yes, of course, when the then minister, my very good friend, Jogate. So he came and reviewed the whole process. I said, well, then we need to go through...
But these same engineers advised the NDC administration and told them to terminate it at Akosombo Port.
Well, but when we took over, my predecessor took over, the understanding was that it would not be very viable to bring this train breaking through those rocks to the Akosombo.
Wait, is it viable?
Yeah.
Is it economically viable?
Economically, number one, and also safety issues of the dam, because the safety of the dam was then a concern. And also economically, there is no need to just to end it at Akosombo. It doesn't make any sense. Because government agenda of the master plan is to send railway line to every regional capital. His Excellency President Akufo Addo insists on that there must be a branch line to every region. So when I listen to Sami Jemfi, for instance, saying that a railway to nowhere, he's not respecting the people from Volta region. And I don't blame him.
But why do you say that? Because if it was...
No, he was saying, because the railway was going through Volta region. He was going to my region. His Excellency Nana Akufo Addo insisted on.
But their plan would have terminated Akosombo, which is part of the region.
Akosombo is not part of Volta region. Akosombo is in Eastern region. And for him to come out saying he doesn't understand why the railway line should go through Volta region is an insult to we the people of Volta region. I am telling you, with that line now entering Volta region, it's going to be shorter for people to move from Ho, alight it somewhere, and then take a train and come to Accra because...
And thankfully, Sami Jamefu, who is the NDC National Communications Officer, joins us on the line right now. Mr. Jamefu, do you accept that your position on the subject, as captioned in that headline, Tema Mpakadan Railway Project, a railway line to nowhere, is disrespectful to the people of the Volta region, as articulated by the Railways Minister?
Not at all. Rather, I find the view expressed by the Minister for Railways rather comical and pathetic, because clearly he's lost in the jungle. He doesn't appreciate the context of that statement I made. He doesn't understand the seriousness of the issues I've raised, which pertain to the viability of that project. And that is why he's playing to the gallery and peddling falsehood, because clearly, if you read my write-up, I have not faulted the extension of the terminal point of that railway line beyond Akosombo to Mpakadan. That is not the issue. Who has raised an issue with Mpakadan being the new terminal point? On the contrary, if you read my write-up, I say that it was on grounds of technical consideration that this government decided to extend the railway line by about 13 kilometers from Akosombo all the way to Mpakadan. And I never criticized that decision or condemned it. So clearly it is either he has not read my write-up or he's just up to mischief. He just wants to play to the gallery and put a spin on a very serious issue. You know, what is the gravamen of that post I made? You see, the purpose of the Tema Akosombo, now Tema Mpakadan railway line, is not just about the transportation of passengers. If that were the case, then that project would not have been viable from day one, because you cannot just transport passengers from Tema, Asienya, all the way to Mpakadan and be able to repay the loan which we got from the Indian Exim Bank for this project.
Well, he admits that.
The whole essence...
He actually admits that.
So that
he actually admits that it's not going to be financially viable with the way they've started now. But
exactly.
They have a plan
so
to do
this minister is actually a confused minister, a bundle of contradiction. I heard him attack President Mahama, President Mahama's harmless questions on that unfortunate accident that happened.
And Sami, just a second, I'll come to John Mahama shortly, but on the substantive matter of the viability, although he admits it's not viable now, he raises questions with your conclusion that the termination at the Akosombo port, which you had argued in your piece, that was the original plan to make it viable because it's going to be transporting goods. He says they are building a port at Mpakadan, and that is the second phase of the project, which will then make it financially viable when they bring in 12 locomotives.
Clearly, this minister doesn't know what he's talking about. Look, I have not raised any issue with the terminal point of this railway line being in Mpakadan. Go through the write-up and tell me where I raise an issue with that, on the terminal point of the railway line they built. The issue I raise has to do with the fact that this Tema Akosombo, now Tema Mpakadan railway line, is supposed to connect the Tema port to the northern parts of Ghana and beyond. That is the original rationale, the strategic consideration for the project. To have a railway line from Tema port to Akosombo or Mpakadan, wherever you want to terminate it, and to have lake transportation from that point to Bute in the northern region of Ghana, so that goods like fuel products, like cement, and what have you, can be transported from the Tema port all the way to the northern parts of the country. You should go and read the Ghana Railway Authority's own policy paper on this project.
Yeah, but Sami, why
that
you
is the
make
original rationale of the project.
Yeah,
and so, if you build a railway line, Evans, let me conclude on this. If you build a railway line that can now, as we speak today, only transport passengers and cannot transport goods to the northern part of the country, what have you done? You've defeated the viability of the project.
Well, while you make that point, Sami, you also say in your piece that it is instructive to note that a Mpakadan has no port, while the Volta Lake port at Akosombo, which was supposed to be developed to allow for the lake transportation of cargoes to and from the northernmost parts of the country. Now, his point to you is that that is not accurate because the plan is to have a port at Mpakadan, which is the next phase. And they've already started the process to bring in the
What plan is he
trains
talking about? What does he know about the Tema Mpakadan railway line? What plan is he talking about?
Yeah, but you admit, though, that they have a plan to have a port at Mpakadan.
This is a project. Evans, will you allow me to just make my point? This is a project that we secured funding for. We secured funding. When he became, even years before he became minister, we have secured $393 million from the Exim Bank of India for this project. All they have done is to secure about $45 million for the 13-kilometer extension. He doesn't know the background to the project and the rationale for saying better than President Mahama. So the point we are making is that phase one of the project, which is a railway line from Tema Port all the way to the Lake Volta Port in Akosombo, now extended to Mpakadan, which is okay, right? Is useless unless, let me not use the word useless, it's not viable unless it is linked to lake transportation from Akosombo or Mpakadan, wherever you want to do that, to the north.
Yeah, but that is what he says he's doing. And this is just the first phase.
Connectivity between the Tema Port and the northern part of Ghana.
Yeah, but I mean, that's exactly what he says you're doing. That what they've done now is just a first phase of a multi-phase
didn't
project.
You tell me right now that the minister says that what they have done is not viable?
He admits that. He says for now.
So if he admits that what they have done now is not viable, what are they celebrating?
Well, the point
isn't
is that
a celebration?
The subsequent
isn't that
phases,
a celebration of mediocrity?
He says the subsequent phases will bring it into financial viability.
In other words, they are celebrating a project that the minister himself says is not viable.
On the John Mahama question, though, John Mahama asked a series of questions for two main questions. One, what test was done?
No, but let's settle this. That the minister himself admits that the project they are making all this noise about is not viable.
Well, but that's
so
the point
what
that
has Sami Jenfi said? What has Sami Jenfi said that the minister has established to be false or contradicted?
Well,
he says that he agrees with me that the project in its current state is not viable, but that they are going to do a subsequent phase that will make it viable.
Yes.
Where is the funding for that subsequent
and as you know, you can't do all in one go. And his
Where
point is that you do the first phase.
You are supposed to do all because we started the processes of developing the Lake Volta port at Akosombo.
But the 300 million
of the phase one of the project.
But the 300 million plus you secured was only to terminate first at Akosombo and then continue subsequently.
If you read my write-up well, I'm sure paragraph 3 or 4, I indicated that we began talks with the Indian Exim Bank for a facility to develop the Lake Volta port at Akosombo to allow for the lake transportation of the cargoes to the northern part of the country. That is at the heart of this project. Without lake transportation of cargoes to the north, this railway line is not viable. The minister agrees with that. So Sami Jenfi has been vindicated. And John Mahama has been vindicated.
On the subject of John Mahama, though, John Mahama asked two questions. One, why the test wasn't done and assessing the safety of the rail line before the test was done. And the second, that how long had the vehicle been on it before the accident happened. On the first point, he says John Mahama showed ignorance because a proper assessment of the line and its safety was done that morning before the test began, and that he should have simply made the call to check.
It only shows you that we have a minister who cannot even, understand the meaning of simple sentences. That is why this, for me, is very pathetic, and it reflects the tragedy of leadership we have in this country. Even read that tweet by John Mahama.
He talks about
where did President Mahama make a statement that no test run was done?
Yeah,
President Mahama's tweet contains two questions.
This is what John Mahama said. How can you conduct a test run on the railway, on a rail line?
Is that a question or a statement of fact?
I'm just reading here. It says, how can you conduct a test run on the new railway line without a track inspection? In there is an assumption.
And there is a question mark, right?
Yes, it is. But in there is an assumption that the inspection wasn't done. That question is based on that assumption.
What the former president, by the grace of God, incoming president, asked only two questions. If Peter Mewu has respect for the people of this country, he should provide answers which answers we as reasonable members of society can then scrutinize and investigate.
Yeah, but
President Mahama has not made any emphatic statement of fact
but
that something.
but the former
done.
president assumes in that question that there wasn't a track inspection. He says that is
Assumption.
false.
Do you see anything? Do you see any assumption like that?
How can you conduct
The
a test
incident-
run on the new railway line without
Tell me,
a track
tell
inspection?
me in all honesty that you, as an objective mind, when you heard of that unfortunate incident, what was the first question that came to mind? The first question that will come to the mind of any objective bystander is how can we have such an accident on a railway line which we are test running when certain preliminary inspections ought to have taken place? That is the legitimate question that any objective bystander will ask.
And he's
And so
provided
President
the answer.
Mahama only asked the questions and said that if he was president, he would have asked some questions. What is wrong with that?
It's
Peter
assumption.
Wu, in his
It's
interview
assumption
with
Peter
you,
Mpakadan points to.
after he berated the former president, came back to vindicate the president by saying that his question was valid. Didn't he tell you that?
Yeah, he said that. The second
So
question is
in one breath, look at this man, a bundle of contradiction. He says that President Mahama's tweet doesn't reflect his stature, virtually insulting him. That President Mahama's comment is below the belt and so on. And in another breath, he said that his question is valid. So clearly, this is a man who is confused. And I think we should treat him with the contempt he deserves. President Mahama asked the same legitimate questions that you, the members of the press, and all objective members of the Ghanaian society were asking at the time. What we require from duty bearers in such circumstances are answers. In this case, the man is not interested in providing truthful answers, but insulting a man who clearly is above his pay grade. Look at the answer he gave you that they carried out an inspection. You asked him how many minutes, between that inspection they claim to have conducted and this, faulty track, issue which was left in the middle of the railway line. And he says 30 minutes. He was not even sure. He was now making analysis here and there. Straight away, you can see that this is a man who is trying to fabricate excuses to look good in the eyes of Ghanaians.
And that's Sami Jemfi. He is the National Communications Officer of the NDC. But there are also further questions that emerged in my interview with the Railways Minister. One revolves around what partisan political considerations inform the decision to construct that railway line all the way to Mpakadan. And are there considerations in there, for example, that will, in essence, dictate what the political players will do because of the potential for it to become a very powerful vote-winning intervention? This is John Peter Mewu's answer to that.
Building the lines, you don't want to wait for another 4 or 5 years to finish the port before you put the lines on to be running. Passengers need to be cut from one end to another. The lines are there, the train is there. You couldn't decided to wait, for a longer period till you finish the.
This was done purely, obviously, an election year. This can be a good vote-winning mechanism.
If it's a good winning mechanism, what's wrong with it? Everybody in every country runs on politics. I am a politician. I'm here to govern the people and work in accordance with their dictates. And so if I'm doing something and it's political, what is wrong about it? Yes, it's for politics. And the people are happy. If you don't work on politics, where would you get people? How do you get this developed? Today, for the first time in the history of this country, the NDC, especially where I come from, they're trying to do things that I do. That has never been done. Would they say because it's politics? Yes. And that is why any environment that generates an element of competition always leads to growth. So yes, it's politics, and it's helping us.
I want to bring in the president of Imani Africa, Franklin Kujo, into the conversation. He himself, obviously, from the Volta region, he joins us on the line right now. Frankly, so you had the Railways Minister making a very categorical claim. Yes, it's soft politics. Yes, I want to win votes by doing this particular project there. There's nothing wrong with it. Your reaction?
Well, good evening to your good self and everyone. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Well, ordinarily, I would have said if the project had certain economic underthought, as in the feasibility and the viability were in sync, then obviously there will be no questions at all. In any case, projects are done or constructed to benefit people anyway. So if it is the case that they're saying, according to the minister, that instead of terminating at the point, he thought that they should extend it to somewhere else for political reasons. The only question I have is it to cut people or to cut goods of passengers? If the overwhelming reason for erecting the rails all the way to the place it wasn't supposed to be, but it has now gone is to cut passengers. Well, I probably don't see it during the way. I would have been worried if the line was supposed to terminate at a particular point where goods can be carted, and then it was rather diverted to a place where goods cannot be carted on the trail, then maybe I'll be worried. But ultimately, he does have a point when he talks about the fundamental reasons for doing projects, is actually to benefit people. That I can't contest it at all.
In fact, I asked him that question about political considerations just after he had told me that the project as currently launched and commissioned is not economically viable right now. They're only hoping to make it economically viable when the phase 2 is activated, which would now bring in the locomotives that would then transport the goods that would terminate at Mpakadan for now. That's why I asked him that question. If you put in that
so he's saying two things. He's saying that the project has an element of economic viability, which would mean that you want to pack goods on the tracks. But as it is now, it is not viable because that other wing of the project, which would have meant that you have to cut economic goods rather than use the goods, is not ready. They thought rather that they should focus on extending it to a place where they could cut people. It's a very difficult conversation to have because you see, in one breath, he's telling you that the project has two goals. One, to cut economic goods as well as cut people. But they thought that the ones that will cut goods probably has much more financial outlay, and so they're not ready to do that, but they're ready to do that. It sounds counterintuitive, but if you listen to him carefully, he said two things, that the project has twin objectives. What we should be wondering now is why that was not done in the first place, and whether the financial outlay was heavier than extending it to just cut people. I've always maintained that if our railway lines are not going to serve the purpose of cutting costs, we probably should not, because there are other alternatives to travel anyway. So if it is the case that the whole railway project was done only to cut people, well, much as I see that as a purpose, I wouldn't really think that it to make economic sense to me. Really. But that's the objective of his administration, that they wanted to solve a twin problem, cut people and cut economic goods. Unfortunately, one is not ready, one is ready. I'm a bit ambivalent to say that so he's so wrong. I really can't say that right now.
And that there is Franklin Kujo, is the president of Imani Africa. What about you? You've heard the minister now explain why they invested in the Tema Mpakadan railway line. Following that accident has become a very topical issue. You've heard him explain its financial viability, but also questioning those who question the president's motive for this particular project, the way they've done it. I want to hear from you, especially if you are in those parts of the country, especially in the Volta region, where this railway line will terminate. Let's hear from you, 055-11-11997. Still ahead, growing pressure on President Akufo Addo and his energy minister to act to end the current erratic